The last battle of the Iga ninjas. The uprising beneath the shadows. In the dark lands of feudal Japan, at a time when swords cut through both flesh and oaths, two clans rose like shadows under the moonlight. They were invisible, unstoppable, masters of stealth and deception. The ninjas of the Iga and Kōga clans. Today, I will tell you the story of a war that would echo through time, where betrayal, blood, and darkness would engulf these legendary warriors in a battle for their own survival. The story begins in a dense fog sliding between the mountains of Iga. It was the year 1579, and the land trembled with rumors of war. Daimyo Oda Nobukatsu, son of the great Oda Nobunaga, coveted the lands of Iga. It wasn't just for the fertile soil, but for something darker and deeper. Nobukatsu desired to destroy what he could not control. The mighty Iga school of ninjutsu, home to the most skilled assassins to ever walk the earth. The Iga clan, led by ninjas with deep knowledge of the occult arts, knew what was coming. They had heard of how Nobukatsu's army advanced like a wave of destruction, devouring everything in its path. But the Iga ninjas did not fear numbers, for they controlled what others could not see. We walk in the shadows, and the shadows are our refuge, said Hattori Hanzō, the most famous ninja of the Iga clan, known not only for his superhuman skills but for his cunning that seemed to predict the future itself. The first attack, 1579. When Nobukatsu's armies finally arrived in the Iga mountains, all was silent. The samurai troops marched confidently, expecting a swift victory. But the forest breathed malice. In every leaf, in every breeze, the Iga were there, watching. Nobukatsu ordered them to advance, but soon his men began to fall, one after another. Arrows flew from nowhere. Explosive traps detonated underfoot, and dark figures emerged from the trees, attacking with deadly precision. In the land of Iga, where the mountains embraced the horizon, lived invisible warriors. Beings of shadow, capable of vanishing with the wind. The Iga clan, masters of ninjutsu, were the ghosts no one could catch. However, one man dared to try. Oda Nobukatsu, son of the great Oda Nobunaga, had arrived with his army, ready to take what he did not understand. But in his ambition, he would unleash a war he was not prepared to face. The camera follows the advancing samurai army as they move slowly through the forest. They are tense, sweating, the silence almost unbearable. Suddenly, a whistle cuts through the air. An arrow, a samurai falls. Then, another whistle, a second one falls. Samurai general, formation, prepare the spears. But it's too late, the fog thickens. Panic grips them as the shadows of the Iga ninjas appear and disappear among the trees. No one knows where the next attack will come from. Arrows whistle, knives cut through the air, and samurai fall one after another, unable to see their attackers. The samurai panicked. This was not a fair war, not even a battle. It was as if the forest itself had risen against them. The Iga ninjas didn't attack head-on. They vanished into the fog, only to appear seconds later at the necks of their enemies. Hattori Hanzō, the master of shadows. In a forest clearing, a man moves stealthily. It is Hattori Hanzō, the leader of the Iga ninjas. His face is serene, but his eyes pierce the darkness. He carries a katana on his back, but he is a man who prefers silence as his primary weapon. Hattori Hanzō, whispering, like leaves falling from the tree, his men will fall, one by one. Hanzō moves quickly. With a signal from his hand, the Iga ninjas begin to attack with surgical precision. They descend from the tree's branches, assault the samurai, and disappear without a trace. Nobukatsu's army is decimated in minutes, the shadows moving as if the forest itself had come to life. Men thought they could conquer Iga, but in their arrogance, they didn't realize they were not fighting men, but shadows. The first invasion was an utter failure for Nobukatsu. Terror gripped his army, and rumors began to spread. They said the Iga ninjas weren't men but demons, vengeful spirits of nature. Nobukatsu's retreat. Nobukatsu, visibly furious, watches the massacre from a nearby hill. His army is being defeated without even seeing the enemy. His advisor, trembling, approaches him. "Advisor, my lord, we must retreat. These are not ordinary warriors. They are demons." With his pride wounded, Nobukatsu orders the retreat. The campfires begin to die out, and the samurai army withdraws, while the ninjas disappear into the fog, having not lost a single man. The first attempt to conquer Iga ended in failure. The shadows of the ninjas had prevailed, and Nobukatsu swore to return. With an army so large that not even the shadows could stop it. The final battle, 1581. 2 years later, Nobukatsu returned with an even larger force, determined to crush Iga once and for all. But this time, the ninjas knew the threat was real. The number of enemies was overwhelming, and for the first time, the warriors of the shadows began to feel the weight of the inevitable. Still, Hattori Hanzō had no intention of surrendering without a fight. He summoned his warriors for one last meeting under the full moon. The silence was deep, and the air heavy with impending fate. The Iga knew this would be their last breath of freedom. "Tonight, the stars watch, but men will die," said Hanzō, his voice as sharp as his katana. "But it will not be in vain. We will fight as what we are. Shadows in the night, invincible in our essence." The camera opens on the Iga Mountains. Leaves fall from the trees, autumn has come. But this time, the sky is stained red. A massive army, led by Nobukatsu, advances relentlessly. Tens of thousands of soldiers, much more prepared, march with torches, spears, and swords. They place homemade explosives on the ground, hide poison in the arrows, and camouflage themselves within nature, waiting for the precise moment. The second attack was devastating. Nobukatsu had learned from his mistakes, and his army marched like a whirlwind of fire and steel. The Iga, though outnumbered, fought with legendary ferocity, using every tactic they knew: underground traps, ambushes from trees, surprise attacks. But the weight of the enemies was crushing. Nobukatsu's samurai advanced mercilessly. In the end, the land of Iga burned under the dying sun. Many ninjas fell, but not without taking countless enemies with them. The ground was soaked in blood, and the warriors' cries echoed like a sinister melody. Hattori Hanzō, today, we do not die as men. We die as legends. Each of us will carry the spirit of Iga into eternity. Hanzō fights like a lion, his movements quick as lightning. Every stroke of his katana is lethal, but even he knows he cannot stop the tide of men surrounding him. The final battle was not about victory, but honor. The Iga ninjas, though outnumbered, fought with the ferocity of the elements. They became one with nature, but even shadows must succumb to the weight of daylight. Hattori Hanzō looks around as his comrades fall. He knows this is the end. With one final cry, he charges toward the enemy, disappearing into the tide of swords. The legend of Hattori Hanzō. When all seemed lost, Hattori Hanzō and a few survivors managed to escape into the mountains. Stories tell that Hanzō vanished into the shadows, only to reappear years later in the service of the great Tokugawa Ieyasu, helping him secure his position as the new shogun of Japan. The survival of the Iga was ensured, but the price was high. That day, in the Iga Mountains, the world saw the end of an era, but also the birth of a legend. The Iga clan, though defeated, lived in the shadows, their legacy immortal in the art of ninjutsu. We are the shadows, and in the shadows, we will live forever. This is the story of a battle that forever changed the fate of the ninjas, a struggle written in the blood of warriors and etched in the memory of the dark forests. The names of the Iga and Kōga live on in the whispers of the wind, in the stories of those who still believe in the magic of the night. And so, in every silent step, in every flash of a hidden blade, the spirit of the ninjas lives on. The camera rises over the battlefield. The bodies of ninjas and samurai are scattered everywhere. Fire burns in the distance, and smoke rises into the sky. But in the mountains, a small shadow moves quickly. Hattori Hanzō and some survivors escape into exile. The province of Iga was destroyed, but the spirit of its warriors lived on forever. Hattori Hanzō and the last ninjas vanished into the shadows, carrying with them the ninjas forever.
Los ninjas. Por siempre.